So, that's not it. So what I'm going to do is just explain the tools that I use to draw with, and my sort of thinking process, doing some basic techniques, and also the basic foundation for when you do draw anything. So I'm going to be using the primary techniques, the simple shapes, value and form, to draw some, the kind of stuff you would draw when you have it all together. Plus I'm going to draw the basic shapes as well. It's just, this is sort of informal. It's not a classroom situation. I don't have a syllabus. I'm not trying to be that way. Because in this context, I might not flow well anyway. But, yeah. So someone asked me if I could teach them some stuff, so I'm going to do it. You'll notice I have a lot of crap on my, in front of me. I have art design markers. The brand doesn't really matter, but, I mean, actually it does matter, but I'm saying the idea that you have some markers. And what makes these things special is they are filled with actually the kind of stuff that would make you high, the denatured alcohol and everything. But you can get really nice blended effects and gradations, and you can sort of work on layers. Like you can lay down color, then go over it again, and it'll be darker. For people that use, things like Photoshop, you could do the same thing with, like, say the burn tool, which I use that. I love doing that. I love, like, just laying down color and then going with the burn tool just to make it darker. So that way you're not trying to choose a color that's slightly different than the other one. It actually is being made from that color. The thing about the burn tool is it burns it adds black to it. So sometimes, like, if it's, depending on what you want, it's possible it could kill your color. So you have to kind of tweak the settings. So anyway, I got my brush pens. Think about it. These are some of these are faded, but that's all right because you can get airbrush effects. They used to sell an attachment that went on the end of, at least there was the Prismacolor ones, that would attach right here, and I use that a lot. A lot of car designers would know about this, product designers. You would go on the tip, there'd be a little air nib that would blow across the tip, and it might be connected to, say, some compressed air, compressed gas, and it would spray your marker across your page so you can get airbrush effects. Very awesome stuff. I don't use marker paper, but I'm probably going to start going to. The reason why it's not good to use normal paper with these kind of markers that are just, impregnated with alcohol is they are very good and very, they can be very saturated, but this paper absorbs this stuff like a sponge, and your markers may not last as long. But and the paper will tend to rip eventually because it starts becoming too saturated. Fortunately, I've been using paper like this and also Xerox paper for years, for times when I didn't actually have any money to buy the good stuff, or even before I even knew about certain types of papers. So I actually know how much I can do to it before it just won't absorb any more pigment, because I might use watercolor or so these are just straight up little brush pens with various nibs. Little brush pens, lots of those. Another thing I like to use are Caran d'Ache. These are cool. These are water soluble crayons. They're kind of expensive, but you might find a good deal. So here's a small pack. Actually, a friend of mine, we would go out and draw every Monday. Just go to a coffee shop. Just have fun. No pressure. And I I gave him my set because he liked them so much. He was like, oh, I really like this, because the idea, and I'll show you in a second, you can, here's a big set. He actually bought me this because sort of returned the favor. He didn't have to. It was pretty cool because I'm trying to figure out how much the prices on these things. They might be like, and a lot of times they're sold out. They might be like, I don't know, $15, $16 US. Sure. Yeah. So, okay, I'll just give you an example of these. And it doesn't matter which one I use. The thing that's cool about Caran d'Ache is they have, you can tell it's not like I really like these, and I do. It's just I like things that are water soluble. The idea that, and here's some more, that's non-photo blue. So that's not water soluble. These are water soluble colored pencils. I like the idea that I could do this, or okay, it's a colored pencil, or I could do this. Take a brush. I'll use my little bamboo action going on. No, it's not a good idea to put this in your mouth to sharpen it, but I did. Okay, so I'm putting it in some a little cup. When you a lot of times you just do like this inside the cup. You know, sometimes you see people doing this, or they put it in their mouth and sharpen it. The reason why it's not a good idea to necessarily do this is because the oils from your hands have mild acids in them, and they actually start breaking down what gives brushes their shape. The good brushes. And here's an example of a good brush. This is called a sable. As far as brushes goes, this is like these are like the you know, I don't know. Is it fair to say Lamborghini? I don't know. Someone can chime in. This is the good stuff. But you don't go out and buy a freaking sable brush when you've never painted before, necessarily. I mean, you can, but I'm just saying, save your money. I mean, don't. You know what I mean? I think it's good to buy certain things when you feel that you've reached a certain level and you're like, okay, I must go on. It's kind of like if you were trying to learn video editing. Use what comes with your computer. If you're on Windows, use what Microsoft Movie Maker. If you're on OS 10, or somebody might say a Mac. I'm talking about operating system here because I use Windows on my Mac. So there you go. It's just software. Anyway, so if you're in OS 10, you would use what comes with the computer, iMovie. You know, because you know video editing is about storytelling. You know, if you're not a good storyteller, and all you really need are, you know, cuts and maybe some fades. I mean, anything can do that. Anyway, so that was the Caran d'Ache stroke. You see, it's breaking up. It's breaking up there, and this right here is the colored pencil. That's the colored pencil. Once again, because there's a time. Okay, so here's a different color. So here's Caran d'Ache. So say you're doing something like this. So we're gonna do a sphere or something like that. Actually, you don't really have to press hard because since it's water soluble, what makes something light or dark a lot of times is yes, how much pigment do you have, but also how much water are you using. If you use more water, it's going to thin it out, right? So it'll be lighter, and where you use less, it'll be darker. Another thing I like, which you would probably hear in an art class, any art class, is the teacher may or may not say, when you're doing stuff, destroy the line, which is good. I mean, sometimes you want a line. There's some things that look awesome, or they're combined, you know. I'm putting more water on here. And I'm using stuff that you know, this is a tissue. I'm not using you know the way I work, I actually mix on the painting itself a lot of times. I don't necessarily mix on the palette. The reason I do that, it's just a choice. I like the idea, especially watercolor. This is so unpredictable. In order to get what you want, you actually have to do it wrong, because watercolor, depending on the humidity and the air, the paper. Oh, don't get me wrong. I have like Arches watercolor blocks, so I'm not a total noob. No. You know, the quality of the brush, the temperature of the water, the purity of the water. When it comes to a lot of things, that will affect how your final thing will. Generally, in watercolor, it looks dark when it's wet, and then it gets lighter as it dries. So if you want something really dark, you have to make it darker than what you might see at the time, so that it'll end up. It's trial and error. You only get through experience, so that it ends up looking the way you want it. And there's different techniques of working in watercolor, or something that's going to give you a watercolor effect. You know, there's wet on wet, and that's what I do a little bit. There's something called dry brushing, where you barely have any water. There's something called scumbling, which is almost like dry brushing, but it's kind of like where it's very dry, you have the pigment, and you kind of, it's almost like a rub-on. You kind of let the pigment go in the nooks and crannies of the paper. And that's actually a very cool technique. A lot of people are naturals at doing that, and they don't even realize it. I remember when I was in school, someone's like, "Oh, you're scumbling." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess that's what it's called." It just when you're flowing, some things make sense, and I think you'll just do it automatically without anyone telling you. It just, must be that primal part of us. So again, okay, so here I'm doing a sphere. So one thing about a sphere, if you want to make it look like a sphere, and I'm basically saying the light is coming from this way, you want to do that. Got your shadow, right? And then we're going to do a core shadow. That's where you start getting into almost like that rim light that you might see. That because the idea of the light's coming here, but also this is maybe lit, and then you have that little thing going on there. And I am using the same color, so this is going to be kind of tricky. And the paper is it is buckling, but as it dries, it'll relax again. Right down here, I'm doing something called lost and found. That's when the part that you're painting, well, kind of gets lost. It blends into the other section, and then it gets sort of found again, which is where it starts becoming like, okay, that's obviously it's still a sphere, but it's sort of, and you may not see that in nature. I mean, it depends on the lighting. I mean, sometimes things can be so lit so well, and you have this weird, almost like bokeh effect or something like that, and it sort of becomes indistinguishable from the sun. Like maybe the sun is so bright that this is so diffused right here that you can't see the edges of it. So that's an example. Here we're doing a sphere, right? If you look at this, if you can do this, you can make an eyeball, right? I mean, this has a lot, or a snowman. I mean, this has a lot of applications, and this is why people want you. In art, why it's good to know these basic shapes. So there we go. That's our sphere. Boop. Another thing people might make, and the reason I like using a paintbrush is because one, well, it's fast. Oh, but you could do it in a frickin'. I'm just trying to have fun, that's what I'm trying to do. So, okay. I wasn't trying to make a perfect circle. So we're going to do this. Another thing about these is unless you're using a frickin', where is it? I know I have one here. unless you're using a freaking Sharpie, and I have found ways to get these things to bleed. Unless you're using a Sharpie, let's try this. Watch, try it. Okay, so we're gonna get a little water. That was the Sharpie. Let's see what happens. Nothing, of course. It's freaking permanent, right? I mean, a little bit happened. I mean, you'd have to do it as soon as you look. But it is possible if you use like, you know, acetone or even alcohol, you can get that to bleed. Other than that, something that really is permanent, and Sharpie has it down pat, that thing's gonna bleed. And some of this stuff I discovered by accident because maybe I was drinking coffee or I was washing my face, accidentally threw the towel down on my drawing or some, you know, or a cup. I put my cup on my drawing and then there was condensation on the bottom and then, you know, I'm like, no! And then you're like, okay, I need to work this into my drawing. You know, so this was my my roller ball. These are easy to get your hands on. You see these everywhere. Also, those jelly pens, those gel pens, I think they're from Japan. They're. Do I have one? I do have one, but I don't know where it is. It's not out here in my bag of tricks. They're kind of. It almost looks like a ballpoint pen, but it writes like one of these roller balls. They flow very well. So I'm not necessarily saying, oh, these things are marketed as being water soluble. I'm just saying that they bleed. I didn't do it the way I wanted to. I would plan that out better. Actually, what I would do is I would do this. I might do that. Here's what you can do. You're basically turning your paper. You get a piece of scrap paper, and you turn it into a palette, and then you kind of go in there and do your thing. This technique, what I'm doing is called wet on wet, where it's already wet, and then you're adding more crap to it. I have a little bit too much water, so it's actually not making that much of a difference. This is kind of dangerous what I'm doing because I could screw up my pen, but these are pretty tough pens, so I'm not gonna. Water's not gonna enter the chamber and mess up the ink inside. There's some where you could like totally mess it up, like a marker. If I used a marker on this right now, it might be a little bit too much because that's water. That's not the alcohol. So I'm gonna kind of do my little thing right here. Yeah, you know. And this is the reason why I like mixed media techniques, because when one thing isn't working, well, use something else. Make it work. That's what you do. You make it work. And the thing about this is it actually is better not to use pure white, right? Not use pure black. And it's one of those things about art, you have to do it, you actually can't draw what you see. You actually have to exaggerate it to give the illusion that this thing has depth. You know what I mean? And that's why practicing this kind of crap, you start getting into like, okay, so say, like if you draw this, you can draw a freaking cylinder. Sorry, I'm not trying to flip you off. You can draw a cylinder. And you might be like, no, I can't. How? I don't get it. Yeah, you can, because think about it. If you draw this, you actually have the bottom of a cylinder. All you need to do is draw two straight lines going up. Think about computer graphics, how they have like the wireframe. And see, we're just going to, that might be too extreme, but we're going to kind of emphasize. Let me get my Sharpie. Yeah, Sharpie is good, Sharpie is good. We're going to emphasize that roundness on the bottom. But see, drawing that sphere actually helps you nail it. Because, you know, the idea, you're like, okay, I'm drawing a cylinder. I want to give it got kind of flat because this nib sucks. Anyway, but, you know, you get the point. You're doing it like that because this is why people draw stick figures, which I start laughing when people say, oh, I can't draw. I can't even draw a stick figure. I'm like, I draw stick figures. That's how I work out my ideas. Because usually artists, when you draw stick figures, like let's say you know all about human anatomy, you're drawing stick figures because that's basically your skeleton. You're not going to draw a freaking full-on skeleton when you're drawing a person. Come on, give me a break. all the time, unless that's, you have to. You're trying to do X-ray view, but what I'm saying is, you need to know where to hang everything else. So yeah, that's messed up. Point. Anyway, what I was doing is, so here's one thing you can do after, oh, it's not dry yet. I think I have white color notch. You can get a little, that's not going to be completely white because it's mixing in with the, it's already wet. And one thing you can do is use like some crazy ass color in the shadows. Like say, let's draw another. Say use yellow for that rim light, and then you use a little mix that in with a little white, just a little bit. So it's not going to be pure yellow because again it's mixing in with the. I mean pure white because it's mixing with the yellow. And then you do like that. You might want to knock that back a little bit. It's a little black right there. Then going in with some of my markers, I'm like, okay, you're going to be used as a blender, so I pretty much screwed you up. No, it's not a perfect shadow. One thing, another thing you can do, to speed up the drying process is some people use a hairdryer. And that can be good. Hold on, I was on my knees. And that can be good. It's just sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you want the watercolor or whatever wet medium you're doing. You want it to do its thing. I remember one of my instructors called it controlled chaos as far as watercolor goes. I don't know. See, I can do oil paint and watercolor. I actually have part of my curriculum being an illustrator. I have a degree in traditional illustration, so that's everything but the computer. I had to learn every medium, and I'm not using a figure of speech. I mean literally. I had to learn every medium. I believe they changed the name of the courses, but when I was going to a particular art school, they called them tech labs, and that's when you would learn 20, 30 different techniques, for each little course. I forgot how many tech labs I had to take, but trust me, it was more than 2. And that was just to learn these mediums and these techniques. Since I was always experimenting, that it was right up my alley. Anyway, so here you can see, okay, now we have a cylinder, for example. I think the good thing about this stuff is once you learn this basic crap, if you look at things, you can say, well, okay, I can make that. Like, for example, take that cylinder right there, and let's just say, okay, I want to make a pipe. And the idea is when you're making stuff like this, you want to be able to do it to where you don't have to explain it to anybody, where they know, like, oh, okay, that's definitely a pipe. So one thing I'm going to do, and I normally don't do this, it's just I don't feel like making it so messy that you can't see the work going underneath. This is a non-photo blue pencil, which is actually relevant because we're not photocopying, but I'm using it anyway. It's just making light lines, but I'm going to do this really quick just in case you can't see it. And I'm basically making a T shape. And you might not be able to see it, so it basically looks like tic-tac-toe. Oh, you know what? I should probably make it bigger. I'm going to make it wider than this. Okay, I'm making it wider. I'm going to make that little darker so it reads more. Okay, so basically think tic-tac-toe. Tic-tac-toe, 3 in a row. Uh-oh, I went off. This is why it's good when you draw, like say you're drawing a straight line. Actually imagine it in your mind, but draw right off the page. not saying like if you had 10 more feet to go, you're going to get up and like, okay, let's start going. I'm saying, you know, because then that way you'll make the line you intend to make. Okay, so what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to find the center, and then I'm going to go down and up. Did I do that wrong? Yeah, no, I didn't. Okay, I'm going to go down and up. Well, sort of a... I think I did that wrong. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that was what I was trying to... I was trying to do a figure 8. Okay, so I'm going to... actually, think infinity symbol. Just below where they attach, I'm going to make... however you want to express this, a figure 8 or an infinity symbol. That's what I'm doing. I think I was thrown off because I usually what I do is I do usually do this with like I just go right into it. Okay, but hey, that's what this is for. You know, it's to do your work before you commit to the line, and you can make another one so that to make sure that it's straight because that's a little off. So I'm gonna find the middle, go like that. 8, 8, 88, 88. It's 2 8s. Or a bow, whatever, or goggles, whatever. Okay, so I did that, and I'm gonna finalize these. It's not gonna be freaking perfect, but whatever. Okay, so now I'm going to I'm just gonna use my pen. It's kind of thin, but okay, hold on. Not yet, not yet, not yet. Let's see here. So I'm going to use that line. See, I'm confusing myself. I'm like, no, what am I doing? Okay. Ooh, it's so waxy. It's resisting. Yeah. It's kind of cool, I guess. Oh, yeah, it's kind of waxy. it's the marker. It's so waxy. It's saying, hey. I mean, the pencil's waxy. So you can kind of see what I'm doing there. I'm actually, this probably looks better going one way, but you get the point. You get the point. So you made a pipe, right? But see, this is just from making cylinders. You know? So it's some weird pipe, and then let's see here. I'm trying to figure out a fun way of doing this. I'll just use marker. Oh, another thing I found out. I don't know who uses these, but I hope they don't stop making them because we use the whiteboards, you know, we use their computers, tablets, things like that, projectors, media projectors. But these are from a time when we used the overhead transparencies. So you'd have like a piece of clear plastic acetate. You put it on a flat surface in this thing that in some ways kind of reminds you of a microscope or something like that, but it wasn't a microscope. It would light the plastic from one side, take that using a series of mirrors, and then push that on a screen several feet away. And, you know, the teacher, usually you'd see it in classrooms and so on, the teacher would draw on it and you'd see what they were doing. I think whiteboards replaced that, the ones that are, you know, digital. Anyway, so they would use these pens because these pens, these vis-a-vis pens, these are these can be wiped away, so you could keep drawing on the acetate, and you're not drawing in permanent marker, so you know you can keep going just like a dry erase board, right? So I guess they're similar to dry erase, although I would not try to use this on your dry erase board, even though it probably would be all. Well, they call this a wet erase, so it's when you do have to erase it, you have to kind of spray it away. But the thing I found out about these little guys, these are made by Expo, is that these actually are fun to watercolor paint with. And it's not black, it's this weird blue, and it's kind of iridescent. It's very awesome. It's very awesome, and it's so easy to destroy the line, if that's what you want to do. And this is one of those ones where I actually discovered it on accident using these. I was like, oh, I think it was one of those things where I actually put a wet piece of cloth on my drawing, or I don't know what I was freaking thinking, but I did that, and it was a mistake, and I was like, oh, that's nice. I think I was using it for something else, some other project I was working on, and I accidentally laid it on that. I didn't notice my drawing or whatever that was there. And I just got these other ideas like, why are you using those in the first place? Oh, just to see, you know, just experimenting. Like, you know, what can I do with them? You know, they were laying around, you know, whatever. So, you know, some things you get are intentional, and then other things it's by accident. There's nothing wrong. Everyone acts like, oh, you didn't mean to do that, and that invalidates. Like, no, if you find something cool, I mean, or somebody could take something that you made and do something totally different with it. And that's where freaking innovation comes from. I like inventing new ways to do things. That's me. That's just the scientist part of me. I also have a degree in microbiology. You might be saying, well, what the hell? I do science fiction. Do the math. It's like, yeah. When I was taking the classes, people were like, why are you in here? You're not a doctor. You know, I could be one. Well, not from a microbiology degree, but I mean, you know, I mean, if I wanted to be, I would have been one. But I said, no, I'm an artist. They're like, oh, I get it. So here you go. It's you know, you can keep working this. What I would do, I would go in with my markers. Maybe choose one that's not as still a little too wet there. I like working in layers, so I'm not one of those people where as soon as I lay something down, it's like perfect or whatever like that. It's like, yes! You know what I mean? It's like every line is perfection. No, not with me. I don't know. I don't like planning out everything. But that's just me. That's not to take away from anybody else. It's like I'm going on a little adventure. And the reason why is because this was with me, my art was with me before I was playing video games. And I would go on little adventures. I would draw I got it from this one kid. I remember I was in, it had to have been 4th grade. Yeah. He would draw these little intricate scenes. And he was doing this years before you would see it in movies. Like, he would draw like battle asteroids. He would draw an asteroid and or draw an undersea base and draw all these guys. It would actually, if you looked at his stuff, it would actually be good video game design. And draw all the people living in there and little ladders and storage areas, and then have like wars and start drawing lines across the paper, and you know, things so those drawings that I made like that don't really exist anymore because I would end up destroying them, in a fun way. So they actually weren't meant to stick around. Oh, went too dark. Whatever. So you can make this work. Now this I can't make this bleed with the paintbrush. I would have to get other markers, or if I wanted to get the break out, the Caran d'Ache and go over it with that and do some stuff, But anyway, you get the point. It's just one of those things that doing basic shapes could allow you to make anything. That's just one system. I was trained in the French Academy way, which is where people know it or not, is the way most people these days, or the art technique. That's what you're learning. There are other ways. It's just a way. It's like writing scripts for movies. When people say formulaic, they're not talking about necessarily. I mean, the definition of it, because I write scripts, is it's not necessarily naked woman and sports car and explosions. It's how the script is structured. By page 15, by page 20, this happens. You have foreshadowing, and at this point, the character gives up and all is lost, and then they get the answer, and then they're even more pumped towards what I mean. That's the formula. But I'm saying, like, there's different ways of writing things. So it's just a way, but I challenge you as an artist, learn your way, learn all the ways, but then mix and match. Oh, another thing. Okay, so we're gonna do a frickin' what about a where's my paintbrush? What about a cone? Okay, so we do a cone here. I'm going to take a little bit of my, okay, we'll do the drawing, because I guess most people aren't going to be watercolor painting, right? I just do it because it's easy. It's fast. You can just be like, bam, there's a shape. I'll give you an example. I'm going to go back to the pen, but I'm going to make a little model in-page palette. So you're like, okay, bam, bam, boom, yay. That's why I do that, but I'm not expecting, like, sometimes you have to hold a watercolor or a paintbrush like you would a pencil. Normally you don't do stuff like that. But I'm using such a small drawing pad that you kind of have to. Usually what you want to do is, and this goes for a pencil, pen, whatever, you kind of want to hold it loose in your hand. Like, think like if you play drums, oh, it'll be right up your alley. You know that when you do the, when you do this, it's like, not that I'm necessarily good at it, but you really have to, just kind of let it fall. You can't be like, you have to, you know what I mean? So, same thing with this, but this, you have to move your whole, you can't draw like this. Yes. Unless you're doing some little crazy detail, like pointillism or something. But I mean, like this, you gotta move your whole, your whole arm, the wrist. You gotta feel it become one with the paper. So, okay, so let's just do it. Okay, so we're doing 3D crap. So you're going to do that. You're going to do that. I'm going to draw past it. I'm just going to draw a straight line. Not that I'm saying this is the way to do it. I'm just saying you're either going to draw a freaking cone or you're going to draw a triangle. But You can't do something like this and be like, okay, I drew a cone. No, no, because the idea, I don't have any cones around. You have to give the illusion that that it's a cone. So one thing you can do, you can draw a circle. So if you can do this, draw a circle, and keep it there. Okay, draw the circle. Although what you really want to do, you want to draw an alternate of the circle called an ellipse. You want to do that. But let's just say that you suck at drawing ellipses. Okay, let's stick with the circle. Okay, so you draw, switch. So you draw a circle. You're going to draw a line, like a T down the middle. We're going to go up. We're going to go up because we're drawing a freaking cone. Okay. And then we're going to draw another line. I guess. I don't know. Maybe this isn't needed. That's going to be the bottom of the cone. Right there. I'll show you in a second. Okay. And then what we're going to do is you're going to decide this. You decide your level of involvement. Fight Club reference. Okay, so let's say that that's the apex of that cone, triangle, whatever the hell. So actually, since that's equidistant, all you need to do is connect the dots. Okay. Okay. And then, this might be too exaggerated, but you get the point. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. So now I have like little sketch lines, but I know which one I want. I want this one right here. That one right there. You can see it. So I'm going to make a definite stroke by making that a little darker. So there that goes, and if you can't see it well, a lot of crap going on. I'm trying to get a thicker pen here. Oh, this is a good one, I think. So we're going to go up here. And you don't have to worry about using a frickin' ruler. The thing about using rulers is they have their place, obviously. But certain things, if you use a ruler, it's going to look weird. It looks too perfect. I mean, I like to think certain things are perfect, but not that, actually that could use some straight edge action. but there you go. There's a freaking cone, and if you want to give the illusion and it has some mass to it, then okay, okay, I'll use my brush pen. This is gray. It might be too dark. No, it's fine. So the idea, let's say, well, that's not the best example here. I mean, I guess the idea, decide where you want light coming from. I mean, the light, let's think, if you go into a room fluorescent lit, the light could be coming from every freaking direction. For example, I'm in my room right now, and the light is coming from over there, and I'm using natural light. I don't want to do something like this little demonstration using fluorescent light. I don't know, something about sunlight. I just like that better. Oh, because the colors will look weird too if I was doing this under fluorescent light. Which, I'd like to point out, when I was in the illustration building, we actually had special lighting in the ceiling. It actually was more like natural light. There's no way you should be learning color theory under fluorescent lights. That's bad. You'd be like, what? How come this looks totally different? Anyway, so I guess what I was saying is, I guess decide where you want things coming from, and then now what we did, you want to look at this crap in real life. Get a cone and freaking draw it. I'm not drawing this. Obviously, I'm not looking at anything, but obviously, I'm not looking at anything. Definitely. I mean, you can make a cone. I mean, freaking. Check this. I want to use one of these. You can freaking make a cone. You can just be like, okay. Or obviously there might be something around your house that looks like a cone. I think I have some tape. Okay, so what do you do if you don't have tape? Okay, I'm trying to do this like as cheap as possible, right? Like make it doable. What you can do, give me 1 second, is, okay, I'm going to say, okay, you don't have any cutting tools either. I want to make a line right here. An incision. I want to make a cut in there. I'm going to wet that a little bit. You know, like when you take paper and you lick the edge, let it, when you tear it, it's clean. So I just did that to that. And what I'm going to do is, I'm trying to find, I'll just use my pen. Use my pen here. May not be perfect, but I'm basically gonna feed that into the into that hole that I just made. Hopefully this works. I just thought about this. I've done a crap ton of paper models so I could visualize what I was making. I've even taken the kneaded eraser. Those are these erasers that are made to, they're actually sculptable so you can get in really tight and erase things. They almost feel like clay. I've taken basically my own art tools and have made quick little models of things that I was trying to visualize because I had trouble visualizing maybe the angle of something. It just, you know, it happens. And, yeah, you know, it's kind of like, you know, whatever works. This is why a lot of, you'll see a lot of artists, they'll have like a mirror near them because they want to make some facial expressions where it's like, well, you know, easy access is you. I'm going to cut off the bottom. This isn't perfect, but it'll do. So, yeah, definitely work on the bottom of that. But the idea is like you're like, okay, I want to draw, you know, the do that right. I want to draw that. Okay, so now you have your model, and then you can you know, do your thing. There you go. So, you know, there's always, you have to be, seriously, when you're an artist, you have to be like MacGyver. I remember one time I ran out of an art supply. In particular, it was the paper, right? It was the crappy newsprint. But I ran out, right? Starving student, didn't have any money. And I was in a foundation figure drawing class. And they decided to do this one exercise where the models would slowly start moving and changing position. The idea that, you know, you're gonna draw them. It's actually a very good exercise because what will happen is your drawing will end up looking like time-lapse photography, where you see ghosted images of where the model was. It'll actually come out beautiful. But if you've ever done that before, and you're intimidated by other artists in the class, maybe, and you're just really hard on yourself, and you run out of art supplies, and you're already being frustrated because they just start doing this. You know what I'm just saying? You're put in a situation that you've never been in before, and you're trying to keep up, and you feel like you're falling behind, and they do that to you. I was getting frustrated. Then I ran out of newsprint because I kept messing up. Right? I'm like, oh, that's terrible. I kept messing up. I can't do it, and I was almost full of tears. And I went to my teacher. I said, I ran out of newsprint. And the way I said it, you know, it sort of implied like, and I don't have any more money to buy any more. So the way I said it, anyone could know like, okay, he's asking me in a way like, what do I do? He didn't say, oh, I'm going to go out and buy some more. So she's like, she kind of like, the way she says, like, you know, kind of like, stop. You're an artist. Improvise. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. So I start looking around. This classroom had glass panels, and so you could see other classes nearby. This particular day, there was nothing going on several classrooms down. So they were connected through these series of doors. And, it looked like an awesome looking lab. So in another room, I saw a big freaking spool of butcher's paper, that brown paper. Think of the kind of paper you would have for a grocery bag. It had that kind of tooth to it, texture to it. So I said, wait a minute, let me get a roll of that. Not a roll of it. Let me just get a little bit of that. I did it. Started drawing on it. I'm like, oh, this is even better than newsprint. It has a little tooth. It's not as slick. I can, I feel like I'm kind of dig in a little bit, and it's not as fragile. It's not going to rip. Because that's one thing that can happen when you're using newsprint. Sometimes you can press too hard and rip your paper, and it kind of sucks. But that's where you get that control, right? And so I got some, I used it, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. From that point on, running out of paper at least never happened to me. Because I started saying, well, what else can I use? I'd be at school. I'm not suggesting you do this, but I'd go to the Xerox machine and I would just, take a little something. And when I got money, I'd go to a copy place, buy a ream of frickin' 500 sheets for like, $4 and $5, and there you go. A lot of times I'd go to art stores and I would get the paper that they would use to put in between the better paper when it was being shipped. Like a lot of the drafting vellum, I would get a lot of that, the paper between that, and also the cardboard between that. Posters, freaking grocery bags, right? Get grocery bags. On the inside, there's not going to be any printing. You unfold that, you have yourself some good paper. That's on the level of, there's a type of textured paper you buy for art called Canson paper. That's the brand. As good as that, right? So, you know what I mean? I'm saying, like, you can use anything. You can use anything. And that's a good survival technique, no matter what. Like for life, the idea that you're faced with a situation and then you're going to improvise. Like me, I think because I've lived in a lot of different places, I don't get freaked out when I move to a new area if I have to, because I know that I can plug in, make friends, and just absorb myself into the culture. Because I'm interested in doing that. Your head has to be into it. I mean, if it's not, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. But I mean, think about it. If you have an interest in something and you're put in that situation that lends itself towards that interest, oh my God, you're going to flourish. So yeah, so that's a good thing. Artists are like, we're like James Bond. Okay, we think on our feet, we improvise. You should be proud. Just think about it. When you watch somebody play the piano, there's something about it. It seems magical, and not everybody can do that. It takes practice, and of course, some people are naturals at doing certain things, and there's some people that are good at doing things, but they needed training, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever your path is, that's what is appropriate for you. So it's kind of hard to say there's a right and wrong way when it comes to especially art. It's that way when it comes to a lot of things, but because you don't know, and what works for you doesn't work for necessarily everybody else. Like me, I don't always get certain things. Sometimes I get them instantly, and sometimes it takes me a while. I've talked to certain teachers about certain things. They've seen some of my work, and they're like, "Why weren't you doing that in my class?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just wasn't." I'm like, "This is what I was trying to get you to do." I was like, "Okay, well, I wasn't ready." Anyway, I just drew a box as I was talking here. So yeah, you got your box. So you might Oh, here's an example. Draw that, draw that, draw that, draw that, draw that, draw that. So you can make this into, you know, like stairs or something like that. These all have to essentially go in the same direction. There's little tricks you can do where they slowly start narrowing, and that's when you can give the illusion that it's farther away, you know, perspective. But I'm just going to do a straight up. It's not really going to be that extreme. Sorry. And so that's straight. That's got to be straight. That's got to be straight. And that's going to go down. Just like that. Just like that. Go down, straight. Say I messed up. Down, straight, and then down. And then, yep. And then you might want to be like, okay, well, I'm just doing lines here. Okay, let's say that's shadow, and that's shadow, and that's shadow. I'm just doing this to pop it out. And then that's shadowed right there. Okay, see. So, you know, and let's say the light's hitting it like that, and then let's say the light's hitting it like here. Or not hitting it right here, I mean, it's not hitting it. Mirror. Another thing you can do with lines is, depending on, like, if you really wanted to give something the illusion that it was rounded, and you were drawing this way, one thing you could do, like say you're drawing a cylinder or something that was cylindrical, and you can do this with paint, pencil, whatever, even freaking sculpture. So let's just say we want to emphasize the fact that this thing is freaking round. Well, one thing you can do is when you're doing your shading, make your lines curve. That emphasizes the idea that, oh, this fucker's round. I mean, sorry, this thing is round. Sorry about that. Language. I'm giving it a coarse shadow, but still, I'm curving it. I'm not doing straight lines. If you do straight lines, it'll ruin the effect. Actually, if you think about it, if something's photoreal, it actually looks flat. Cameras tend to flatten out things, so that's why, if you can, don't do photo reference. Do real life. Take your own reference. Another good thing about taking your own reference, and today we can do it. It wasn't that easily accessible when I was a kid. You know, the camera on your phone is good enough to take really good pictures. Hell, it's even good enough to and here's what I do. Like say I wanted this in the computer, I would just take a picture of this with my phone, and then bring it into my computer and then work with it from there. It's as in the context of how quality our cameras are compared to the scanners of yesteryear. They're either just as good or better, and this was how artists would catalog their portfolios. They weren't scanning it in mostly. They would take it to some really good photographer who would light their artwork well, and then take a picture of it. And you know, you put your stuff on slides and you know, be made into slides, and then you'd send it off to people. And that's what people wanted. They would be like, you know, only slides are accepted. Nowadays, they'd be like, yeah, just give me your website. And the idea, you would take it to a professional photographer because you don't want to do it yourself, because you want to make sure the colors are nice, and you know, this photographer is sensitive to the artist, and blah blah blah, and it will get your whole art piece, and it won't be cut off and all that stuff. So you know, they're going to light it. They're going to light it in a studio environment, so it's going to look as awesome as it could look. So there's an example of, like, what I'm saying is you wrap it around to give the illusion, to basically sell the idea that this is a frickin' cylinder, and it's round, and it's, yeah. I'm gonna come in a little bit, because you know how I do. Seriously, the only reason I do this is because it's faster. It's, you know, I'm like, yeah. Oh, and you know, not too much water, but I can come in even with my brush and do the same thing. And it's kind of subtle. It's one of those things where if you don't do it, you'll notice it. But it just helps sell the idea that, okay, right now I'm just kind of paint daubing. But yeah, I mean, yeah. And if you want to get fancy, you can put a little, that might have been too thick. What I should do is get a little bit of my white watercolor and go in there, but I'm not going to. Yeah. So, beep. So there you go. You have, like, you know, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's not like everything's perfect as soon as you do it. You know, I keep working this, but you know, you get the idea. This is what you're going to do. You're doing stuff like this basic stuff, so that you can use it to make more complex objects. And the thing about making things look complex is repetition. If you repeat these shapes like this, you could be like, well, if you can do this, you can draw a circle. Everybody can draw a circle. Even if you freaking took this. See, look. Oh, sorry, can't see. Okay, I'm basically gonna draw around my my pen. Sorry, can't see. So there you go. No excuses. Everybody can draw a freaking circle. And it's okay if you do it like this. It's totally freaking fine. So let me just do something real quick, because I still have a little bit of ink on here. I should be adding more water so that it gets lighter as I get further away, but whatever. Okay, so yeah, it's terrible. Okay, so but what I'm saying is, if you can do this, you can make grapes, right? Because what a freaking, I can be like, hey, draw me some grapes. Like, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, yeah, you do. You do know how to do it. Just freaking, again, it's better to have some reference, in my opinion, because you want them to look. You know, it has a little freaking, yeah, it's too big. Okay, so then you're like, okay, well, there's that. And then so there you can go. You can start doing your little, okay, so we're just going to do the pen. We're going to do the pen. Do the pen here. Remember, you have the core shadow and then the shadow. Core shadow is that darkest area. Do that. This is really fast. You know, you get the idea. Oh yeah, show you some of my crap. Finish pieces. Well, actually, doesn't look like much, does it? But, you know, you get the point, right? It's the idea, it's just a series of freaking spheres, you know? So, and here's an example of combining a lot of different, you know, a lot of times when people are drawing, they'll use a sphere to help define the placement of features of a person, you know, guidelines. If you want, you can make sound effects. Oh, also, there's nothing wrong with having freaking music as you're drawing or whatever the hell. Or making sound effects. I used to make sound effects when I'm drawing spaceships. You're just like, gotta do that. Where's my freaking paintbrush? Very well organized here. I'm just doing this so I can lay down the forms. You know what's weird about art? Sometimes if you have time to think about something, you're not flowing. Sometimes you just have to do it. No, it's kind of like you're operating off of your instincts, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's always a good thing. I mean, no, sometimes you have to look at things analytically, but I'm saying sometimes for certain things it's better to do it off of your instincts because it'll have that a little extra something something that you can't copy. It's you. It's your freaking style. Whatever that style is. You know, so I mean, this is just an example of like, okay, I'm using actually a lot of basic crap to make this. And yes, it looks like me because I know myself. even in advanced art classes, you know, they always have you draw a picture of yourself. It got to the point where I didn't have to look in the mirror. I was like, yeah, I could. I wasn't literally trying to draw myself, but I can. Come on, you look at yourself every day. Eventually, you're gonna get it, right? What I like about this, I mean, I'm using the pen, but then I can go in and make it look kind of like watercolor or something like that. It's awesome. I guess I would have to say watercolor, or this isn't really watercolor. You know what I mean? It's not actual. The reason why this isn't watercolor is because now this is watercolor. This is Chinese white. Now this is actual watercolor paint. You know, this is ink. So there is a difference. So I think that thing is dried up. So there actually is watercolor. You know, you're getting water. I'm getting watercolor effects, but it's not really watercolor. No more than me getting the program Painter or Photoshop and using the mediums on there. It's not really watercolor. It's still digital. It's not really watercolor. You know what I mean? You're moving pixels, man. So, and you know they think this ain't a cop out because I do both. So it's not like, no, I'm being a purist. It's like, no, I call it as I see it. But yeah, you know, so one thing you want to do is, like, if you do crap like this, like if I draw a certain kind of white here or whatever color, don't do it anywhere else. It's just, for example, my nose, you know, usually there's something seriously wrong with you. Your nose is going to come out more than the rest of your body. You know, then it's the brow and all that other crap. So you might want to do something that makes that pop more than another part. But you know, you have fun. I mean, I'm doing color in here, but whatever. You don't have to press hard. Actually, you can kind of let it play in there. Let it find its way. And this is what can make something look interesting, because you have all the color action going on. You know. Star Trek. I don't know why Star Trek's going on my classic Star Trek thing. Okay, let's see, a little bit of, it's too wet, man. I can't get, oh, hold on. This is where the Karen Dosh might come in. I might be able to pop it out. We have a, yeah, you know, you gotta have fun, right? You gotta experiment, right? You gotta not be so so rigid, and do your thing, because you might find something different. That's why when I draw, whatever the hell you want to call this, because it's sort of mixed media, I have a whole bunch of crap. This is like, you know, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I have my frickin', you know, I have my technical pens. These are the kind that are refillable. I also have the micron ones that, well, that aren't refillable. But whatever, you know. If one thing doesn't work, try something else. You have to find that thing that you're good at doing. I like mixing everything together. So what I would do, I'd even take this in on the computer and then do some more crap to it. Not too much, because sometimes if you do too much on the computer, it's like, well, you might as well have stayed in that medium. But I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. Oh God, because I was whistling Star Trek now. So okay. Yeah. All right, that's it for now. Actually, this camera, I'm wearing it on my head. It's giving me a freaking headache. So anyway, let's review. We did some crap like this. Drew some cylinder action. Basic shapes. Out of squares or blocks. Made some steps. There's another block thing. Made a freaking cone. If you look in here, that kind of action's going on in here, right? Boop, boop. Took the cylinders, made a freaking pipe, whatever. And the spheres, man. Here's some other stuff that I did, but I had run out of space on my camera, so I was talking to myself. No. Going back, I was playing around here. There I am again. Little stupid light pole. There's another cylinder thing. Some more crap like that. Yep. All right. I'll be back. The end. for now. Oh, ooh, for no, for now.